Good evening, Scape Flit Stories. Hope you guys are good. Hope het gaan goed samen julle. Tonight we have Lynn and Lloyd again on the couch. En Auntie Caroline is saam met ons vanaand. Auntie Caroline Peters is saam met ons vanaand. En hulle gaan lekker gesels. You guys must feel free to comment. And, Caroline is very well known on the Cape Flats, for the work that she does. So I want to encourage you to please be part of this conversation and ask questions, and learn. You can definitely learn something from what they're going to speak about. So without any ado, I am going to give over to Lynn, and Lynn will then conduct this interview.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Wednesday night on the couch. But this is no ordinary Wednesday night.
Not at all.
Not at all. So for those of you who join us regularly, we've been talking about intimacy, relationships, and what life can be like after being a victim of gender-based violence or any sort of trauma like that in your life. And so last week we spoke a bit about childbirth and a bit about raising kids and stuff. And so tonight we're keeping in the same vein tonight, but we've got a very special guest joining us tonight. So some of you might know her, others might not. She's quite a celebrity in most circles, but she's such a humble. She's got such a humble spirit, but she's got such a big heart as well. You know, she's been through a lot in her life. She's seen a lot in her life. But she's always wearing a smile whenever I see her, and she's always been such an encouragement to even myself and Lynn. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce you tonight and to give a warm welcome to Caroline Peters tonight, all the way from the Cape Flats.
Absolutely.
Welcome, Caroline.
Welcome, Caroline.
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Lynn Lloydd. Thank you so much for inviting me to your couch to share.
Yeah. You can't be in the lounge with us because
Yes,
nice coffee,
yes.
but
Yeah.
post-COVID, I'm
And
sure.
another time, I've got my juice. Yeah. So another time, we'll definitely do that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So
But
on
thank
the
you.
side, we sort of just I must tell you that this is a huge honor for me to have you with us, to host you. I mean, you're absolutely a phenomenal woman, and I think what makes you phenomenal for me is that you're real, that you've been through so much and that you're still standing. I know that when we speak about real issues, and so I don't want people to think that you're invincible, that you know it all, because that's not who you are. You admit that you still hurt, there's still down days, there's still trigger moments. But I think that for me, just getting to know you, I love your tenacity and just your perseverance.
Yes.
And I felt on this platform that you could just, by your very being, encourage so many people. So I'd like for you to just share a bit of your story. Who is Caroline Peters?
Oh, sure. Lynn, how much time do I have? Anyway.
all night for you.
Okay, so I am firstly, Lynn. I'm a feminist. I'm a human rights activist. I've worked in the gender rights field for almost 30 years. I hold various positions and still do. I'm the founder right now. I'm the founder and director of Callas Foundation. But I've held various positions in different NPOs. And I started out in the sector as a Red Crisis volunteer many years ago. So at the time, I worked as a Red Crisis volunteer, and I worked in the corporate sector as a bookkeeper, admin manager. And so, like I said, currently I'm Callas director and founder, and I coordinate the Cape Flats Women's Movement. I chair the South African Women in Dialogue, the provincial chair. I coordinate a program for the Women's Legal Center called the Community Human Rights Defenders. And so those are the things I currently do. I serve on boards of organizations. And that's work. But who am I? I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a grandmother, I'm a friend and colleague, and all those things. But I firstly, and I just want to say that I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
I'm a believer. God is my strength, nothing without God. And so just all of those things, Lynn. But like you said earlier, many times we can speak our story, and I'm sure you know. And I've told my story on various platforms, and I haven't had the courage, or I would love one day, Lynn, to do a book.
Yeah.
But when I was shy 3 months of my 16th birthday when I was gang raped at Nantes Park. And this, I did not know at the time that changed the pattern, or set the trajectory of my life. And I'm sure, like as a survivor, many years later, when I stepped back and I realized what happened when I was 16, was at the time I wanted to die. All I wanted to do was die. I went on a path of self-destruction. I've been in a drug rehabilitation center. And so, many times people see this Caroline now, many, many years later. I'm now close to 57. So many, many years later, Lynn, this is how I am. I'm whole, I'm healed. And like you say, still have my trigger moments. However, it has been a long journey to get here. It has taken many, many, many things, many hours, years of counseling, and still, continuously making sure that I speak to people, that I have my mentor and coach. I have my person that I would offload on, or
Caroline, I want to say it's quite interesting. I like the comment that you made, that this is who you are now, but it's taken years for you to be this. It's taken years for you to be the Caroline that emerged. And I think especially when sexual assault happens at such a young age, there's this thing that we carry it for so long first. And I wish I knew why, though, because once that happened, I mean, how did you feel immediately as a victim? Did you blame yourself?
Oh yes, I did. And Lynn, I just want to go a step back, and I'm not sure who's watching, but I want to just mention this, that from the age of 6 to 12, I was also sexually assaulted in my home. And in my own home by an older cousin. And so for years, that didn't even come to the fore. For years, I battled with that. I became the rebellious teenager. I became the kind wat ou gat is.
Yeah,
I
that's
became,
what the
yes, ek was ou gat. Ek was uit die pad uit. Ek is uit die wil uit. Ek is, hulle nie my care toe, hulle lei hande op jou, and we step out of line, and nobody knows what is actually happening with this child. Nobody takes the time, or I don't know, ignorance.
But I mean,
I don't even think it was ignorance. I think something you said in your, anyway, we've had this conversation, but when a doctor told my mother at Red Cross Hospital, this has happened, she said, no, not in my house. It can't be, and she almost denied it. She then said to me, I mustn't tell anybody what happened. And it continued, and so I suffered. So for years, all those things you need to, forgiveness, those paths that you walk, Sure, Lynn. This is now very deep. I haven't spoken about this for a very long time.
Please take your time. Don't feel pressure to share what you're not ready. This is real. But I mean, even just, thinking about when we use words like forgiveness and things, I always tell people they'll never know how deep that is. I mean, forgiveness, of course, we do it for ourselves, but man, that's hard. Hey?
Yes, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard when the person dies and you're almost expected to go to their funeral. So many years later, adults, and the person died, and you're expected to go to the funeral, and all I thought in my head was, I'm glad it's gone.
Yeah,
and God
absolutely.
forbid, but that I'm just being very open and honest
Yeah.
here tonight.
No, but
And all
I
I
felt,
wanted to say,
sorry, Lloyd, just before you talk, I was going to say, I felt the same when my rapist died. I,
yes,
there was a part of me that was almost happy because then you wouldn't be
yes,
able to do it to anybody else. And then you
yes,
get all that conflicting, but grace is for you as it's for him.
yes,
And, that's
yes,
a whole new journey that you have to
yes,
go on. You want to say
yeah,
something?
Yeah, I think I think I want to go back to what you said earlier on. Is that a lot of people see the you now, and they don't realize that. I think sometimes a lot of the things with trauma and hurt is the fact that we need to get to a stage where we want to help ourselves, as
mm,
painful as it is, And I think
mm,
sometimes that's often the deterrent with people. That they don't want to open up those wounds because they're very painful.
Yeah.
But
yes, yes,
what I also like about your story is that it's still a daily journey in some
yes,
areas,
oh yes,
and even by putting yourself on these platforms and by making yourself available, I'm sure it must still trigger certain things, but that's
yes,
also part of your
yeah.
stepping out, and so that's what it's really encouraging.
Yeah, Lloyd, I know now that there's people watching that, so I'm vulnerable again.
Yes, absolutely.
So coming onto a platform like this again makes you vulnerable.
Yes.
So you think, oh my goodness, I've shared this, I've written about it, somebody else is reading, somebody else is listening to this again. And again, I feel vulnerable.
No,
So it's a continuous journey of saying I'm okay. And to continue on this journey. And so yeah, just going back, and Lynn, you were asking me about some of the immediate feelings
yeah,
of you know and it did. So on the day, I'm going to speak about that day on July the 20th, 1980. It's
sure.
almost sure it's 13 days away. And so July the 20th, 1980, I mean, I will never forget. I'm 57, so this year, so you can work out how many years ago this was, but you remember.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and immediately, I mean, when you ask that, I can tell you yes, because on that day, my mother said to me, I must wash up. And I didn't listen. I went out with friends, but this was in the afternoon. So
Yeah,
immediately, of course, that came to mind. If I had to listen to my mother, what
sure.
if we didn't? What if I didn't go with my friend? What if we didn't? We were told to walk around the Nantes. You grew up here. There's a
Yeah,
time of the day that you don't cross the Nantes anymore.
yes.
You're supposed to walk around. And we
Yeah.
didn't listen. But I was 15 years old. Do you understand? So I now look at 15-year-olds and they don't listen. So and so for years I was eaten up by that. If only I listened. So you suffer from guilt, you suffer from shame, because of course now also I'm at Bridgetown and everybody knows.
Yeah.
And you don't want to go back to school because children at the school, and the shame that goes with it, as if you know what happens to victim blaming. Ja, maar Callas ou gat. Wat het Kalla daar gemaak? Why was she, those type of things that come to
And
15-year-olds. And I think that is why I always say, I said to my brother today, I am that 15-year-old Augat girl. That's the girl I want to rescue. That is the girl that the community says Augat, daar's niks aan haar nie. I was the girl in the community that the other mothers don't want the children to be friends with, because ek is Augat, ek is Augat een. And I mean,
Sorry,
yes.
I was going to ask you with the labels that they attached. I mean, I shared a post this week about that very thing about labels, and I was also called a slut. But nobody sat me down and said, Lynn, what is the issue? Is there something wrong? And was it similar with you that nobody actually took time to find out why you do the things you do?
I know. Lynn, I was telling my daughters, I mean, I have adult daughters, and I was telling them how I hitchhiked. You know how far Bridgetown to Mitchell's Plain was when we were 14?
It's still for.
It's so far. Yes, but I mean, remember those years, that was like bush.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I went from Bridgetown to Mitchell's Plain, and I will never forget it. And my parents thought I was missing, but I disappeared when I was 12, But it was the cry from the sexual abuse that was happening at home. I didn't know how to get their attention anymore. And so many times, so many things. And then, of course, I'm just the wayward child. I'm the ogat, the slut, the one that your daughter don't hang out with, And so it continued. And so that's why my passion are those girls in our community, because nobody listened to me. Nobody sat me down and said, what is wrong? Why are you doing what you're doing? And so for years I felt misunderstood. Nobody sees me. I love saying to young girls, I see you. I see you. Our young girls want to be seen. It means
so much. Yeah.
Yes.
That's such a weighted statement. We do that in the house where Alta, Lloyd, or just in us. That's I see you, meaning that I see all of you. I see you.
Yes.
I acknowledge what
Yes,
you
I acknowledge. Yes, So,
I think something that you share, and I think the sad thing is that not a lot of it has changed in homes where kids act out and parents look at the immediate behavior. There's never a questioning as to why or deeper digging,
Yeah.
And so the kids are kind of left to deal with the trauma, to deal with how they feel, to deal with all the other side issues themselves. And very, very often they have very little recourse. There's no one to talk to, And I think last week I also mentioned the fact that sometimes we always feel, when we need to listen to someone, we always feel we need to have the answers. But sometimes it's about availing ourselves and acknowledging that person's pain, and listening to them through their journey. And I think oftentimes I wish more people would do that, because I think a lot of times victims don't feel there's anybody out there that cares about them and that's concerned about their well-being.
I must tell you, I had a conversation with a woman yesterday who owns a pub. And you can imagine how many women speak to her in the pub.
Yeah.
So, and how many women disclose things to her in the pub. And really lovely soul, beautiful woman. And so often we, and I said to her, and she said to me, Auntie C, what do I do? And I said, listen, that's all. Most women just need you to listen to them.
Yeah.
And I said to her, and I can assure you, and I'm saying to you now, you listen to them. And if you think that they need any further advice, then you refer them to me, because I can't take on everybody. But I'm saying to her, every person needs someone to listen to them.
Totally.
So right now, all you do is listen and lend her an ear. And if you find that she needs further intervention, if she needs intervention, then you refer to me, So exactly that, Lloyd. Yeah. One of the programs that I was involved with was about holding space. No?
Oh, I
So
love
how do we hold space for each other?
Yeah.
How do we show up as sisters? Because often as women, we are in these spaces, and I love that you're doing this with Lloyd, Lynn, because often we exclude the men in the fight. I don't like to call it to eradicate GBV. We have to include the men,
Absolutely.
So, but how do we as women? How do we hold space for one another? How do we make it safe for each other to speak about things? How do we show up? How do I show up for another sister? Do you know how many times God shows me my prejudice up? And I smile because this is God. God is a real man. And then I think, your Lord, because that's how I speak to God, and I think, it's like God nudge you. And so I go, sure, Lord, do I have to, under my breath, because I speak to like I have my friend. Yeah, God's my friend.
Yes.
And then,
No, go.
Yes, so I want to speak even around women as our prejudice, how we need to put our prejudice aside, how we need to make sure that we're holding space for each other, men, irrespective. I always say, if she has a vagina, she's your sister. If
Yeah.
she whatever else, that makes her your sister. So hold space, man, hold space and hold each other. That's all we need.
No, I think we're all guilty of being judgerach here.
Yeah.
And I think a friend, he put it so well once when Lynn made a comment. She said she never knows how to respond when people find out like what has happened and they say they're sorry, and he made a very good point. And he said oftentimes, when we see people, we have an opinion about them and we decide what they are and what they're not. And eventually when we know them, we find out who they really are. And we find out their stories, and it's that guilt sometimes that comes over us because we actually judge them. I mean, I do that all the time, and it's very difficult to undo that, And so I like that. I mean, I can be very judgerach myself. I put up my hand, first time.
Yes. I also, yes, I say that, no, Lloyd, I miss the times when we used to have all these workshops with women and that. But one of the things is a prejudice exercise, man. So I used to train lay counselors, man. Yeah. And then we have this prejudice exercises. So you have so much, and that is and you match characters and who they are, and how we look at how people are dressed and our assumptions of people, all those things. And those are the things. But I always say we all have prejudice, but we need to be aware. The awareness needs to be there, so when something, when you find yourself, you catch yourself, catch yourself and say, Lord, am I being prejudiced? Am I, and because it's difficult sometimes to sit in front of someone. I mean, I said to Lynn earlier, I met a woman and she's a murderer, and what do I think? How do I respond? How do I react? And it's a good thing she wasn't sitting in front of me when I heard that it was on the telephone. And so immediately, I could calm my voice. I could, sound. Yeah. But all I thought was, oh my goodness. Yes.
And sorry, just going a bit back, I wanted to know, so, I mean, it sounded like your life was really hard. And it didn't seem as if there was a holding space for you. How did you come out and tell your story? Was there somebody that actually created space for you, or did you create your own space?
Yes. So I want to tell you. And so I grow older, and Cindy is born in my 18th birthday, before my 18th birthday, a month before my 18th birthday. I then go and work. After finishing school, I go work. I then become and there's an advert, and you struggle through life, and you just do life because that's what's expected of you. My goodness,
Yeah.
The hustle continues, and you have your children, and I have a husband and 2 children by the age of 21, and so it continues. And then I see an advert for rape crisis counselors. Volunteers, for rape crisis volunteers. And so remember, this is something that forever is there. It's there.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
You can go on with your life and pretend like things are, but it's sticky up. Yeah. And I see this advert, Lynn, but what happens when I turn 21? I end up at Kenilworth Clinic. I have a complete breakdown. I have Cindy and Zyda. Zyda's a baby. She's a few months old. I'm married with 2 children at 21, and I have a breakdown. Yeah. And I end up at what they call a breakdown, but very, very severely depressed. Yeah. And at that stage, they call it manic depressive because my moods are up and down and up and down. And yeah, before they called it bipolar, they used to call it manic depressive. Yeah. And I end up at Kenilworth Clinic, and for months, yeah. Those years, the medical aids allowed you more than 21 days for mental health in hospital.
Lucky you!
And I end up at Kenilworth Clinic, I'll never forget at that stage. It was still the old house, the old white house at Kenilworth Station, yes. And I end up there where you sat under the big oak tree.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. So you all know Kenilworth Clinic, you see. And I end up there, and that's the first time ever. But before I end up there, what sent me there was I saw my rapist as a broker at Mitchell's Plain Town Centre.
Oh my gosh.
And I go home, and my children are babies, and I go home, and I stop talking for 2 days. And nobody knows what happened to me. And
So how many years after the incident was this now?
She was 21 and 16
21.
when it happened.
Yeah,
Okay.
15. I was 15 when it happened. 15. So about 6 years later.
Years, yeah,
Sure.
okay. Yeah.
Years later, yeah. And I go to town centre in Mitchell's Plain. We live in Strandfontein. I go there, and outside Pickaway, this man approaches. But you must remember, there's a chain of things that, stress, work stress and life stress, and then this happens. And the next thing, I can't function anymore. And I will never forget, on the 11th of July, I'm booked into the clinic. Yeah. So this is exactly 6 years later, yeah. And I'm booked into the clinic. I am discharged from the clinic months later, and hospitalization, off work and all that. And the next year, at the age of 23, I saw the advert for the rape crisis. Yeah. Yes. As a volunteer. And then that was the first time in my life that I spoke about my rape and my sexual abuse as a child. So for the first, yeah.
Can I ask, did your husband know at the time? Or?
Yes, he did know.
Okay, I see. Okay.
He did. Yes. I shared it with him, and I shared my life with him, and he did know. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's the first time I go into therapy then for months. It's the first time my family is confronted with my psychiatrist. You know those family sessions where
They're so happy. They're so happy.
Yes. Yeah. And my father and my sister, his elder sister, is called in at this stage. My mother's passed away. So my father and my sisters called in about, my cousin and the abuse. And so, of course, yeah, that's so just think 6 years later, this explosion happened in my life, and all this.
Sure.
Yeah. So that took a year. It took a year of intense in hospital, and took me a long time.
And that situation plays out very differently depending on your own family dynamics.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, Lynn mentioned it last week as well, we focus a lot on the victim, but the family offering is left behind, and sometimes the victim has to go into that environment.
Yes.
And navigate those relationships that have now changed forever sometimes,
Yes.
and that's quite a thing that, there's all sorts of feelings with the family, and blaming and guilt and shame.
I mean, with that story, I'm sure did you have some family members that denied and said that you're lying with your, specifically with your sexual abuse thing?
Yes. Why? Now, why did it happen to me? It didn't happen to them.
Yeah.
What did you do?
No, we were all in the same house. Why did it happen to you? Why didn't it happen to us? Why didn't you say?
Yeah.
Ons was almal daar, hoe could you niks gesê nie? What stopped you from saying? Let I want to share something here quickly on this platform. For years I couldn't understand why I don't eat vanilla ice cream.
Listen what she said. It's crazy.
Yeah. I only realized that in therapy, Lloyd, that the perpetrator worked at a factory ice cream factory, and he used to bring ice cream home, and used to bribe me with ice cream. Now, you were a poor child on the Cape Flats. Ice cream is a luxury.
Absolutely.
Like Bashu's.
Yeah.
That's it, And I couldn't understand my thing with ice cream. Everybody loved ice cream. And so for years, I didn't eat ice cream. And you know, when that penny dropped, I thought, OMG, you know,
Mm.
little things, man.
Mm.
And then for years, I ate rum and raisin ice cream, but it mustn't be white. It must be other colors ice cream.
That's
And
my
now,
favorite.
but purposefully, Lloyd, I now
Yeah.
eat vanilla ice cream because I
Sure.
also want to overcome that. Yeah.
You intentional.
The intentional. Yes, I'm
Mhm.
intentional about it.
Mm.
Even if I flavor it with other things, I will dish the vanilla. I will flavor it with chocolate or whatever. But
Yeah,
it
and
was it's your mind and only once I've worked through those layers. It was layers of work, years of work to be done. It was even hypnotherapy at one stage, yeah. That I needed because I was this, yeah.
I like how you're speaking about all your therapies
Mm.
because, especially on the Cape Flats,
the work.
we frown upon that. We frown
Yes.
upon when you need to go to psychologists and psychiatrists,
Yes.
and we need to name these things because I wouldn't be here if I didn't go. I had
Yes.
to use medication. I needed
Yes.
sleeping pills. I needed antidepressants. I mean, you must go for counseling, and I think other than just being women, even the men and our children, we need to be able to comfortably say, we need to go to counseling, we must go to a session. We need to
Yes. Yeah.
not
Definitely.
just
Even men learn. Men.
Yes,
And I want to see, I know for many men, Lynn, I really want to ask to encourage you and Lloyd to speak about men and rape.
listen,
So
sister,
many
in the
men.
spirit, because that's what we're going to do next week. We're starting
Yes.
the whole what is a man? What defines a man? Because I am tired of us, or I'm tired of the blaming of the men. Yes, they are the perpetrators, but it's not all of them. And how are we going to help change the narrative? We need to change the narrative.
Also, we need to start speaking about men that is being abused, men that is raped.
Yeah.
Because we do not speak about it because there's still so much guilt and there's so much shame around that. Just 2 weeks ago, I worked with a male victim of rape, and and all I'm thinking is we're not speaking about it enough. Yeah.
We don't, and you're quite right. We don't hear about it at all.
No, we don't. Yeah.
We don't.
But Kayla, what I wanted to also go back to, and I think it's back to what I mentioned earlier on. I'm sure with your therapy, a lot of times you didn't feel like it, but it was a decision you made to go in spite of. And I think that is also oftentimes the switch that needs to happen, that a lot of the things that's good for us, like I go walk every day, 90% of my reason for walking is for my health, 10% or 5% is actually, I don't feel like it really, or I feel like going. And so I want to always encourage people that, there has to be a decision, it doesn't always feel great when you come back, or you don't always feel different or whatever, but it's that consistency of wanting to go and wanting to help yourself, and you have to really dig deep.
I must tell you, so many weeks, and then you go, you will know, and you think, what am I going to speak about today? Before you go to your session, then you think, I don't smart for this, man. I don't listen. I could have done so many other things, and what am I going to speak about? And your therapist asks you one question.
I'm laughing because it's true, man. It's so true.
The therapist asks you one question and you go, and after that hour, and you've bawled your eyes out and you think, oh my goodness, really. And and like you say, and you come back tired and you're exhausted. My therapy was always the last part of the day so that I don't have to go back to work. I can, I can then go home and do that. And so for me, I also have a few people that I now counsel, and I often laugh when the people say that, sure, I didn't know what I was going to come speak about. I can say this or this, because I know that.
It's so nice you know,
Yes.
I'm so encouraged that you can relate to all of that, though,
Yes.
Caroline.
Yes.
You've had a hard life, and clearly,
Yes.
when I see just how you've used your bad story and just you turned it around completely. You just defy the odds all the time with what you do.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank
That
you.
is
And I too. Yeah.
Mm.
And yeah. So what motivated me to continue loving? So that I'm just looking at my questions that you said.
Tell me, sister, what did motivate you to continue, though?
You know, when my mom died, I was 19. I was 19 when mom died, and Cindy was a year old. Cindy was a year. And in fact, after the rape, I just didn't care two woods. I hanged out with bad people. I just drank. I smoked. I drugged. I did the whole thing. I fall pregnant with Cindy. And then, of course, I had to stop because now I had a child that I was responsible for. And so I had to live, you know. And sometimes we look at young girls and they have babies and we judge. But I can tell you, my baby was my turnaround.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I often say it's like God knew that I'm going to need a reason to live.
Sure.
And when I had Cindy and my mom was no longer there, I had to live. I had to live for my child. I had to get up and do stuff because now I had another person that I was responsible for. So I look at young mothers and I see how their mothers are there, you know, and good. But I also know that was the reason that I had to live. Yeah.
Sure.
So
Sure.
so sometimes young mothers, their babies are their saving grace because that is exactly what it was for me.
Sure. I never
And so
Mm.
yeah, I had to continue living because I had a young child that was completely dependent on me. Yeah.
Can I
And
ask you? Can
yeah.
I ask you a question, man? So, and maybe it's a difficult question to answer. So, what about those out there that maybe they feel like there's no reason? How could what would your words be to them? You know that they, you know, like they
Lloyd,
feel like there's no reason to live. I know it's maybe a difficult question, but maybe just some
there's
encouragement.
always a reason. There's always a reason to love. You know, I think find it in the small things, man. In the person, in a niece, a nephew. I always say, little people give us reasons to live. No, little people give us a reason to get up and to do. We know as parents, we do for our children. You know, we want to do that. Volunteer at organizations. Get up, go and see what you can do, and you know. From the women, I just want to make an example that was in the queue. So we had women that used to queue here for food that is now working in the kitchen. And so they are completely different. And they say to me, "Shoo, this is so nice to be able to do and to give and to," because they've never had to give. No? So now being on this side of the queue and not standing in the queue there waiting for handout, but just being able to now serve, to hand out food, to give someone else a sandwich that was, you know.
Sure.
So it for me it's always been in the giving. Giving helped me get up. I mean, there's still times
Giving out of your brokenness.
yes, you know. I don't know if that makes sense, and I know for some people sometimes we find ourselves so broken that you think you have nothing to give. You always have something to give. Even like I said earlier, even if it's just listening to someone else, just listening to someone else. Yeah?
But it's true what you say, you know, giving out of your brokenness. I remember with my journey, sometimes, because I was quite involved in church and youth and all of that. and deep down you feel sometimes you just felt so worthless. You felt
Yes.
like you were just taking up space, and then there'll be somebody and they come in, confide in you, and you can listen, and those are the times that used to help me on my healing journey.
Yes.
One never
Yes.
really arrives. So out of that giving, it's like a circle. It comes full circle because it helps edify you as a person
Yes.
in turn
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
So I mean, we never stop giving of ourselves, and I
Never.
think
Never.
that's why when I met you the first time and we had coffee and you told me about all those things you involved in, I was like, my goodness, did you clone yourself? Because how can one person be just
Yes.
giving so much? Because I mean, you literally, Callas Foundation is one aspect only, and like your intro, there's just like you've got your fingers in just so many pies. How do you, Caroline? How do you recuperate from that? How do you take pause moments and like, okay, now you
Or
need
create
to
space for yourself.
yeah, because you're busy.
I must tell you, so I've always had a million irons in the fire, fingers everywhere. I've always just been like that, Lynn, and I say I'm not sure if God was just blessed me with a high level of energy and abundance of wanting to give and do. And my mother used to say to me, you live as if life is going to pass you by, jup, 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 and you want to do this, that, and that, and the other. And I was always like that. So that's one thing. But I often feel also like I always, I don't know how to say no. I've learned how to say no over the years. As you get older, you start saying no. You start making sure there's boundaries. I know from COVID last year up until now, when it started, I used to give food out until 8 o'clock at night. I stopped that. If you're not here by 5 o'clock, my gate is locked. There's no ways I'm going to give you food after that, because if you need food after 5, you were lazy to come and stand in the queue and get food, So I do not answer my doorbell until, if you have my number and it's an emergency, you will WhatsApp me. Those things. I've put those things in place. But how do I? And I have now over the years. I think that came with maturity, with also knowing that, listen, a friend of mine said to me, what will happen if you close the organization for a week? She says the same people will be there a week later. Huh?
Yes.
And I had to really listen to her, and I took a week off. I closed our door for a week, and everybody took a break for a week, and we came back refreshed. And so I've learned over time, but I've also learned that with my huge network, I've learned to refer.
Okay.
Yes, I've learned to establish that I am not superwoman. I cannot do everything. I need to, so I've almost delegated things. I've referred more work. I have said no to more work over this past year because 2 years ago, I was burnt out. I ended up back in the clinic.
Yeah.
And then I think 2 years ago, I really came to the realization, no ways, I never want to be there again. My family suffer. When I have to take 6 weeks out in a clinic, in a hospital, my family suffers. And so
it's really encouraging that, and I think the key word is maturity as well. You've learned how to take stock of your life, and you've learned when you need to pause. And that's I must say, I struggle a bit with that. I suppose because I need to learn how. But when people send me messages, because my details are out there, I'm like, if you have to sort of differentiate on what is urgent and what's not. And so sometimes, when I try and teach people because trigger moments are just that. So a lot of people, they'll make contact because they've had bad trigger moments. And I try and teach that you just need to take stock and breathe first. But, it's hard. So,
very hard. And now, before you used to see me on social media, and even if I'm not on social media, I switch off. I read. I
Okay.
try to do other things, fill things, so that, because people also see you online and they immediately assume that you're available to talk.
Available, yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
you're available to engage. And I choose who I want to engage to. And I
Yes.
don't engage with heavy matters during the night,
Yes.
So,
No,
so I've learned that those are things, but also very important supervision. Just like I supervise a group of women, I have my supervisor. So just always making sure
okay.
we have someone,
Accountability.
So you still have a so you still have
Yes.
mentors and people.
Yes, I
Oh,
do.
wow.
No,
Yes,
I was
I
saying,
do.
I was saying it's the importance of accountability, being accountable to
Yes.
someone.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And also that, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned words, or you said that sometimes you refer cases and so forth. Could you speak me through? I mean, if there's anyone that's listening that has been raped or that needs assistance, what are the protocols? What are the steps out there? What do people have to do?
Okay, so firstly with rape, Lynn, you don't have to. Sometimes people want to take the rape survivor to the police station. You
Okay.
never have to take her to a police station.
Sure.
Remember that. Firstly, you take her to a Tutuzela rape care center. No? So there's Tutuzela rape care centers in Heideveld, Victoria Hospital if you're on the Cape Flats. There's Karl Bremer and there's Tygerberg. So those are the four.
And these are free services, eh?
Free services, yes.
Okay.
Free services, yeah. Netcare at one stage also you could take victims of sexual violence to Netcare. They will do the initial, they will fill in the forms, they will contact cops. So they act as a Tutuzela rape care center. But just remember the word Tutuzela rape care centers, okay?
We'll put it on the socials afterwards.
Yeah.
Yes, please do. Tutuzela rape care center, because often people phone the police or they take the rape survivor to the police station. And I say don't. Because remember, secondary trauma again for victim of sexual violence. So what you do, you take her to Heideveld. Heideveld Hospital has got a Tutuzela rape care center. She comes there. She's seen there by a district surgeon. FCS will come there to take a statement. There is a rape crisis counselor on call.
Wow.
So all those servers are there. She doesn't go anywhere else. And the police will then take a statement from there. Don't take her to the police station. Police station is the worst place you can take a rape survivor to.
Sure.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So, and then of course, like we all know, Lynn, no washing, no taking off of anything. We do not want to contaminate any evidence, anything, There where she is, where you feel you need to get an ambulance when she was stabbed, or, I say sometimes ambulance takes hours to arrive. If you can, take her to the Tutuzela Center. Yeah, again. Yeah? But to me, that is the first port of call, is a Tutuzela Rape Care Center. Yeah?
Okay.
And protocols will follow there. Yeah. FCS, and I want to say to you, with FCS, FCS are the people that will take the statement for any sexual violence for children, for adults, and that. Yeah.
So what is FCS? It's the family.
It's family and child services.
Okay. So they do.
So it's a special unit in SAPS. So they deal specifically with any sexual violence. Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
And the follow-ups and stuff, do they guide you through the process?
So once you so they are there, you have got your case number. I would say rape crisis is the best place for counseling services. If you're on the Cape Flats, there's a rape crisis Kailicha, rape crisis in Gatesville, rape crisis in Observatory. But most women's organizations, even Mosaic, offer services, counseling services. But because the rape crisis has got specialized services for rape, if you're close to that, otherwise there's Mosaic, there's other big women's
Yeah.
organizations. FCS will have a pamphlet. Tutuzela Center will be able to refer you to the services
Okay.
closest to you. Okay.
Okay.
And so one of the things that we also do is court support. I have 4 cases that I support through the court now, and you're close to me. But yeah, so they will guide you through that at Tutuzela. Yes.
So Tutuzela, is it for men and for women?
For men and women and children.
So it's all of it.
Sexual violence. All
Wow.
sexual violence, yeah.
Yeah, that's good to know. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think we'll put all those details just on the socials so that people can have access to it. So
Yes.
you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to, because I'm also conscious of the time. I wanted to know more about the Callas Foundation, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that properly, because you did you told me Callas.
I said to you earlier, it's not Callas, it's not it's Cala.
Can I ask why it's called Callas? I mean, I know, but just for those people out there.
Those who don't know. So Cala is my nickname. My nickname is Cala. And like I said to you earlier, you know, when I was looking for a name for the organization, and my dear friend Grant Jansen, his organization is called Callas Foundation. So Callas is his nickname. And he said to me, Caroline, just name it your name, give it your name. And I said, no, man, Grant. And like I said to you earlier, we shy away as women. We don't want to call things our name, because no, we're going to look too boastful, and it's going to be, but you know what? I am a brand. Cala is a brand. Cala is who I am, that I subscribe to. So when you walk into Callas Foundation, you must be treated like I would treat you. So the women in this organization know that everybody's important, you know, that walks in here, no prejudice. So there's things that goes with the name Cala. That's what I stand for. And that is exactly what happens here at Callas Foundation. That's me, and that's how we operate from that premise. No? So ons as vroue is ons te bang om te sê, no, this is me, this is who I am. Yeah.
I like
that's why
this.
I'm Cala.
So what does Callas do? I mean, in a nutshell.
Callas Foundation in a nutshell, if I must tell you quickly. So part of what we do, or the core business of our work, is GBV. The feeding came later in 2018. So 2018, and because I live and work in the community, I realized that women, you know, often women that comes here, you must remember poverty is a driver of gender-based violence. Drugs is a driver of gender-based violence, you know, and all those intersects with each other. The intersection between GBV and poverty is high, and it's big. Gangsterism on the Cape Flats plays a huge part in our GBV figures. And one of the things, Lynn, was that a lot of the women came here hungry, and you cannot start even working with them. So then I would get up and go and make coffee and bread and bring it. And well, Tilly was my dearest Tilly, who I lost 3 weeks ago, you know. And Tilly would make the bread and tea and so. And then we started with a pot of soup, you know, and then people started queuing outside. And they said to me one day, when I decided to bring so much, my children said, who are you going to give that to? I said, no, to the people outside. And so it came from 60 liters of food last year up to 800 liters of food we served.
Sure.
Yes, on a day. And we distributed to others, and yeah. But anyway, so the food part came later. So often people think Callas Foundation is a feeding scheme. We're not. That is also one of the things that we do.
Wow.
So we do court support. I counsel women, like I said to you. So I have 4 women that I walk a journey with. Right now with sexual violence, 2 of that cases I got immediately when it happened. Parents calling me, I'd make sure FCS took a long time to come out, because I know what happens, what needs to happen, what has to happen. And so I followed up. I walked the journey with them through court. many cases gets dropped. People don't go further because of all the postponements, all the things and that. So there's 4 cases that I going through from the start until whatever happens. And so we do court support. We also support you when you phone me and say, listen, my daughter was raped. The perpetrator is appearing. There's a chance that he is going to get bail. We're going to make a noise at court and make sure that you do not get bail. So we oppose bail. We write to the magistrate, but we also make sure we protest. Yeah. So it's not a rent-a-crowd. I almost want to go. I wish I had a rent-a-crowd. I wish I had a pass and say, listen, no, that man's not going to get bail. We're going to stand there till, So that's also part of what we do. But of course, now through COVID again, it's been very difficult. It's a gathering now. We can't do that. And then, so we do the court support. We run a support group for women and women who's in violent relationships and abuse a substance. It's a very difficult, sometimes you want to pull your hair out because it's not just a woman that is beaten up by her husband. And so I work with that women. I work with women in gangs. My newest project program is working with women in gangs, extracting women from gangs, women that wants to exit gangs, women whose lives is in danger, that has witnessed too much. We extract them, send them to safe spaces. We work with women in conflict with the law.
Wow.
Sure, Karen, I'm sitting here and I'm like, how does one woman, I mean, I know it's Callas Foundation and you have people helping you, but how even do you keep all this into your mind? How do you, I mean, for somebody, it's a lot, right? I'm thinking you need a PA, you need a bodyguard.
I do. I need a bodyguard sometimes. I do because my mouth.
Tell me, what is it that Callas Foundation would need? I know that with the feeding, it would be food. What is it that you need? Because we've got people listening, and I mean, I'm appealing to anyone out there to just to give assistance because
we come alongside you.
This is our people.
Yes. But even with my GBV work, Lynn, for 8 years I worked for the Western Cape Network on Violence Against Women, and God prepared me on this journey, man. So I know for many years I built up a network of services, but I always say there's gaps in services that we need. So I have a relationship with a network, with the women's shelter networks. I have, but services like people that can afford to come alongside me, facilitate funding, of course, always, pay for a PA.
I would have volunteered, but I'm terrible.
Yes.
I'm very bad.
Yeah, I said to Lynn once, Lynn, we had this conversation about, I said, Lynn, I need a PA, So things like that, because you do your program work, your administrative work lags behind, And often I think, for community-based organizations, it's very difficult. And then we know funders still wants the same reports that they want from big organizations, So but get in contact with me. Let me know.
You ask Stanley, we can ask Stanley to put on your poster from Callas and just that's the feeding scheme and what you need, because I'm well aware, because sometimes I'm that person. Sometimes I don't like to give cash. I like to give
yes.
We open. I mean, you open for people to
give
the
completely. Yes.
I've followed your page quite a bit, and I see the photos, and I mean, I couldn't believe the long line of people.
One day over there as well.
I mean, there's just we have a hungry community, and I think what broke my heart, Caroline, was all the children.
Yes.
I see that you separate the queues with the children, and I know that you put the photos.
Oh, you can see. Yeah.
I know that you put it out there for people to see that this is.
I know. And Lynn, I know sometimes, I mean, people think you put the pictures out there. Why are you exposing this? But there's a need. I mean, the ladies in the kitchen said to me yesterday, "What are we gonna feed? The stocks are running low." But I trust God, I've never been scared. And I just know that tomorrow there's going to be 200 liters of food cooked in that
Amen.
garden,
We have to.
So,
And I think,
yeah,
we walk this faith journey, Caroline. We see it before we see it.
yes, yes,
I believe that we call these
Yeah.
things into being.
yes,
You
yes.
know, you have to. I mean,
Yeah.
we in a world that our socials depict is just the end of the world. There's everything bad. I mean, it's doom. I'm tired. I'm tired of going onto socials and you just see negativity all the time. And I think we're part of the solution, changing that. And saying,
And I just want to tell you what has happened recently was also that I've had, I want to say, I cooked in honor of, and it was so beautifully done. I cooked in honor of Rowena and Warren. There was a family that came to me, Colleen Burgess, Webb Burgess, that came to me and said, I'm going to give you money. And we honored a son like that and a sister like that. And we made sure we put their picture up and that. And, and I want to say to families, I know sometimes we do not know what to do for our family. But that was such a beautiful gesture that someone said, okay, we will pay for the meal for that day. And you in honor of that person, So in memory of, in honor of, And that was really beautiful. So if there's anyone out there that want to donate, then come here on that day then and hand out the food with us. And, we're always open to that too. So, yeah.
So Stanley's going to post the details. You've also got a Facebook page if people want to contact
Yes,
you.
Yes, we do. Callas Community Projects, yes.
Not pronounce it properly.
Callas, Callas.
Not Callas, Callas.
Is there perhaps an email address that you can share with
Yes.
people? Or?
It's on there.
Oh, is it? It's all on the. Okay, it's all on
It's all
the
on the
app.
socials, yeah.
Caroline, we've run out of time now, and ek is baie bang vir Stanley. He's a nice guy, but I don't want to overstay my welcome on the couch. So I don't know if there's any closing comments you'd like to make, perhaps, just as a last, or if there's anything else you want to leave us with.
Okay, thank you for having me. Firstly, Lynn and Lloyd, I'm grateful and I'm privileged and I feel honored that you chose to have me on your couch today or in your lounge today. And I want to say to women out there that is struggling, women that is watching this, and I know how many women walk around there with masks. I always say, ons sit ons makeup op, ons maak ons hare mooi, and then we continue the hustle. And I often say to people say, just push through. No, don't push through. Pause and think, and there's help out there. You don't need to push through on your own because everybody tells you, druk maar die, gaan op jou knieë, druk maar die, doen dat. But just know, women, men, whoever's watching this, there are many more Caroline Peterses out there. Okay?
Thank you so much, Caroline. I think that, I'm so inspired. I mean, you encourage us all the time, but for me, you challenge me to be better. And you challenge me to be authentic, and just how your journey, it's taken years to have you here now. It's taken years of tears and anger and all those emotions, but you've emerged into this woman of faith and this woman of worth. And that's encouraging for all of us. And I'd like to whoever's listening, that all of us go through trauma, Caroline, all of us experience heartache, but you're such a fine example of what it is to put your trust in the Lord. So thank you so much. I don't think this is the last time, sister. I think we're going to talk again. But
I just want to say thank you to Linda Vessels. I just saw that message that popped up now that said on the 21st of July, there's a meal paid for in memory of Akil Vessels. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you so much, Linda. And just to anybody, if you keen to support it, just drop Caroline a message. Find out more about it if you'd like to. This is our community.
Our community.
Thank you. Thank you, Stanley.
Thank you, Stanley. Thank
you,
everybody.
Stanley.
There we go. Oh, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Apologies.
Okay,
I've shared your post, Caroline. It's on our page, so people can just go to the post. The link is there as well. and we will share it like for the next couple of days, and people can get involved
Stanley.
with you. So thank you very much for joining us, Lynn and Lloyd. Thank you for inviting Caroline.
Yeah.
It's much appreciated.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Stanley. Good evening,
For
everybody.
the platform, Stanley. Stanley, thank you for creating this platform.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
often watch you, and
Thank
I
you.
love the work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank
It's for our people, Caroline. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
yes, thank you, Stan. All
Thank you.
right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
That was Lynn and Lloyd and Auntie Caroline. It was an awesome, awesome interview. I really enjoyed it. The word that she used took me back. We always say, "Was a kindness is ogat," and that is something we need to cut out of our vocabulary. We need to stop mentioning names like that. Ek het dit baie gehoor in my familie in. And that is the words that actually breaks our children's spirit. So people, please, support Caroline. She does amazing work. I just want to share the screen with you, then you guys can quickly see on my Facebook um, what she needs. We must support each other. It's all about supporting one another and helping each other. See, she's looking for donations: rice, lentils, soup mix, some beans, split peas, and so on. You guys can contact her. A number is on the pamphlet or on the flyer. And also her banking details is there. Somebody I know, ek weet van julle is skatryk mense. So please put something into her account and bless her so that she can bless the community. She has been very much a blessing to our community and she must continue doing so. If you just listen to what she said, hulle gaan in die communities in, then they could take the females out of the gangs. Now that is a difficult task. You're putting your own life in danger because that gangsters now comes to you, but that is what she sacrifices because she wants to give other young women also opportunity to better themselves. So I want to say thank you very much to all of you guys that were part um, of this cast. Please share it. Please click on the share button. Let as many people see this live video. It's very important for us to share information like this. And then I just want to say once again, thank you, Lynn and Lloyd. Julle was kwaai geweest. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley.
Thank you,
Thanks for the
Stanley.
spot, eh?